Hello, everybody. Welcome back again to the Planet Film Network. I am one of your hosts, Sean Monk.
And I'm your other host, TJ Cornwell. And tonight, we'll be giving you our review of the Marvels. We'll also be reviewing the final episode of Loki, most likely the series finale, not just season 2 finale. And it looks like we're going to be talking to box office, and then of course we're going to go through what we've been watching as well.
Absolutely.
So basically, just a show or an episode full of reviews. That's about it.
And kind of a wider discussion on where we're at with Marvel now that now that we thought their 2023 was over, but there might be one more thing coming, but we'll see.
Yeah. So why don't we just start off real quick on what we've been watching?
Yeah.
Do you want to go first? Or you want me to start off?
You can take it first, just because I have not pulled it up yet. 1 second.
All right. So, just to run through what I've been watching lately. So first I watched Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. All right. That was a great movie. And next I had To Catch a Thief. Another great movie. Then I watched The Marvels, of course. Mike Wallace is Here, which is a documentary on Prime. Mike Wallace, 60 Minutes fame. So that's basically why I was drawn to it. I watched The Manchurian Candidate the other night, and then Danielle and I watched Harold and Maude as well.
Oh, yeah.
And you know what sucks is I had Old Boy ready to watch it. But I just didn't get to it in my 3-week span of library
Rental
eligibility.
Yeah.
So I returned it last night, unfortunately. So I will get it back at some point, and hopefully I'll watch it. But I just never made time for it. What I did take out though, a little film called Jumper that I've never seen.
No
before.
way! I could cry right now, man. You just blew my mind. I could cry. Did you watch it already?
No, I haven't seen it
man!
yet.
Next week, man, I will watch it again next week. That is
Okay.
Wow.
I'm excited to see something
That
with
blew
Hayden
me
that's
away.
not Star Wars.
That blew me away
So,
just then. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sam Jackson though. Sam Jackson given a nice worthy.
Oh, is he in it?
Yeah. Oh, I guess spoiler
okay.
alert, but it's probably on the back cover.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, Sam Jackson's definitely in it. But yeah, very good. They carry over their chemistry. I'll say that.
Right. So, and then as far as TV goes, Welcome to Wrexham, of course. That's a weekly thing. Just got renewed for season 3, actually.
Nice.
Obviously Loki. I watched first episode of Invincible. I watched second episode of Gen V. And Danielle and I made a little return to a show called The Morning Show on Apple TV. I think 2 weeks ago we did. Still kind of, it's still going. I think at this point we're kind of just watching it to finish it.
Yeah.
I don't think it's not bad. It's still like a serviceable show, I think. It's just not, I don't think anything will ever top that first season.
Yeah, no. I don't think so. That's the exact reason why I've been staying away from it so far.
Right.
Is just because I know it's one of those things that, and I will watch it just like you will, but it's just like, it feels like one of those things that is just so like, I'm just watching it to like get it, kind of get it in and out of the way. But that being said, though, I did see some people saying that the season was good and stuff, and that John Hamm was a good addition. But
I mean, he's basically Elon Musk. That's basically who he's playing.
Pretty much, yeah.
For being honest.
That's
it for me.
Nice. TV. I will actually start with TV because movies. I've just been an absolute insane person with the library, so the movies I'm just gonna name the titles. The TV show that I want to talk about this week that I checked out is brand new on Showtime and Paramount Plus. Showtime with Paramount Plus, however you intake that content. Nathan Fielder of Nathan For You and The Rehearsal fame. I know we talked about on the show a couple of months back that he was going to be having a new show with Benny Safdie and Emma Stone called The Curse that started this week. You got to give this guy all the Emmys. The Curse is levels to his whole kind of thing that he is that I did not think that he was capable of doing. I mean, obviously from his other two shows, it's like, that this guy is like can write on this psychological level that is like underneath everything else. And in this show, he's just taking it even further now that he is playing this character, and it's an actual acting character, but he's acting in a show that is about creating a reality television show, and it's adding the commentary about making reality television shows and how fake it can be and what certain people have to go through and everything like that. And all the performances are great, especially Nathan Fielder. Because this is just the thing. Like, there is a scene, it kind of went a little viral on Twitter this week. There is a scene where he just drops into this, like, goes from, like, oh, really, Nathan Fielder, to just, like, if you ever speak like that to my wife again. Like, it's, like, a much longer sequence with much more nuance. But he just drops into this, like, cold, calculating performance that was just crazy to watch, and I recommend that show just based on that scene alone. It is very graphic, I will say. It is a very adult show, at least just one scene. I just mean there are it is a show that if they go to those lengths, it is a graphic show because it is Showtime. But it is very good. That's basically it that I've been watching for TV other than Invincible and Loki. But then movie-wise, I can't remember if I had said that I had watched Sicario last time, but then I rewatched, for the first time since it came out, I watched Blade Runner, and then I watched Blade Runner 2049. So that was only my second time seeing Blade Runner 2049, and it was very, very good. Then I watched Punch Drunk Love for the first time. Incredible movie. Good Obviously, movie. I was missing out on the hype for the longest time. Then I watched Come On, Come On. That's the one directed by Mike Mills from 2021 with Joaquin Phoenix. Very good movie, just about, an uncle and a nephew. Just kind of like life. But very good Joaquin Phoenix performance. Then I watched Sicario 2, Day of the Soldado. It was okay. Not as good as I remember it.
Not as good as Sicario 1.
No, definitely not. And then I watched Star Trek The Motion Picture. Just because I'm still listening to the Star Trek podcast and in Star Trek brain. Then I watched just randomly one night. I was just looking at what was in my library on Google TV, and I watched Bill and Ted Face the Music, and that's a really good one. I stick by my
that was a good one.
My original Letterboxd review was this is the best one, and I think it is. One. Yeah, I think it definitely is. Like, perfect legacy sequel. Probably the best one they've ever done.
We reviewed it.
We did, absolutely. I remember we did. I think we did all the Bill and Teds.
Yeah.
Let's see. Then I went and saw the Marvels. Then I watched this movie Taking 5, which is like an old.
What the hell is that?
It's an old like indie teen, like super low budget movie. That is just very popular in my household. Watched that on DVD from the library, so that was nice. The DVD looked great in the PS5. Then I watched Stagecoach for the first time, which I had never seen. Obviously, last show we talked about that I watched The Searchers. So going much further back in the working relationship between John Wayne and John Ford. Right. Very good. Not as good as The Searchers to me, but when you start with The Searchers, that's
just like kind of seeing. That kind of like goes on top of the trend I feel like I've been having, where I've been going back to like a lot of older movies. Like I was saying, like I did, Baby Jane and The Manchurian Candidate and To Catch a Thief. Like I just took out like 39 Steps, The Deer Hunter, and what was the other one? Oh, The Parallax View that I had rented, or that I took out like a few weeks ago. But again, there was another one I didn't get to, so I had to return it. But yeah, I feel like I'm kind of in this like mode where I'm like, let's just go back to, decades and decades ago.
Yeah. 39 Steps, that's one I've always wanted to see. It's like regarded as the first kind of action adventure movie, but really like the first kind of action movie, which just sounds awesome. And then just to get ready for later in this week, I went to the library and I picked up the first Hunger Games movie because that's the only one for some reason that I don't own. And so yesterday I watched The Hunger Games, and I just now finished watching Catching Fire, which is two very good movies. But man, that first one is so good. But that's been it for me.
You did skip one.
What did I skip?
Just get Midnight Cowboy.
Oh, right, yes, because I wanted to circle back to that.
Oh, okay.
Out of everything that I've been catching up on, and everything like you, that you have certain holes in your watch history and stuff like that. I was like almost asleep one night. It was like 11:15, and I was like,
yeah,
all right, I got this out because I know it's like a really famous movie and everything.
right.
John Voight, Dustin Hoffman. I was like, I'll put this on and see how long I last before falling asleep. I went on an emotional journey that I did not know existed in a film from 1969. It felt like a Paul Thomas Anderson movie like 30 years before Paul Thomas Anderson.
Okay.
It just was, I mean, not entirely, it's way more than that, but just it had that kind of, it kind of left me with a similar feeling from Punch Drunk Love. That's just like, because it is in a very weird way, but not that weird, I guess. It is kind of a love story between these two men who just kind of like find each other, and it's not even necessarily like a gay love story, but it's just there's so much like more going on with it, and it really just shows you like kind of like just the realism of like poverty and like what people have to do specifically in New York City with the case of this movie. But just an incredible movie that like hit, like absolutely knocked me over. Just because I was like, oh, this is a movie that people talk about all the time. But then it ended up just being like an incredible movie that really, kind of blew me away. But yeah, so Midnight Cowboy, very good, easily the best movie I watched in the past 2 weeks. Yeah, I think so.
All right.
But yeah.
So now that's done, where do we want to start?
Man, I'm equally split. You pick. 1 second.
If you wanted to talk box office, I'd say we would probably start with that. But if not, then I'd say we start with the Marvels.
Okay. Well, let's do both. How about that? Let's do both.
Okay. Fair enough. It can be then. Yeah.
So, yeah, I just want to talk box office for a quick second here, just because we're not going to go into huge. Oh, let me zoom that way in here. Can I get the top 5? There we go. Okay. So, again, I don't want to harp on this too long. I just want to cover basically the top 5 here. So, 5 is Killers of the Flower Moon from Paramount, obviously. Made 4.5, and so it's currently at... Oh, it would help if I could see what it's currently at. There we go. So it's at $60 million right now. Priscilla made another 4.7, so it's at $12.7 million. The Eras Tour is still going crazy strong. Brought in another $6 million. This is going to be its last week in wide release, because this says basically it lost 800 theaters in the previous week, but now it's going to lose like 2,500 of these 2,800. So that's going to make a killing. I'm sure we'll talk about that once it's all wrapped up. Five Nights at Freddy's obviously is kind of the biggest success here in the top 5. What you see here, it's at basically $253 million so far. Pretty even between domestic and international. But super big success for Blumhouse for sure. And then the big one that everybody seems to be talking about is coming in at number 1 this weekend at the box office charts. The number 1 movie in the world, The Marvels, which came in domestically at $48.4 million and got a worldwide total of $111.3 million for its opening weekend. So, going over box office, talking about the numbers, everybody that's watching, TJ, what do these numbers kind of mean for you? Oh, actually, can I just say real quick?
Yeah.
I just want to break in here for a second. This is a exclusive from the InSnyder, because I am subscribed to the InSnyder newsletter.
Yeah.
This is breaking just now. The Last of Us 2 has a January 2024 start date, with Caitlin Dever set to play Abby in the sequel season.
Wow.
There you go.
That's a good casting.
That's a good pick. Yeah, I know a lot of people were saying like maybe Florence Pugh or something, but then she's probably too
Right.
old. I think Caitlin Deaver's great. She
Now
could
is
get
Caitlin Deaver
she could
gonna
get
get
them
jacked?
jacked. I was just gonna say,
As-
yeah. But in terms of the look and everything, and obviously
Mhm.
being an exceptional actor that Caitlin Deaver is,
Right.
I think that's a great pick. Sorry, that literally just got emailed to me, so
No.
I wanted to get it out there. But yeah, talking about these box office numbers here, what's kind of jumping out to you?
Let's see. It's kind of nice to see Five Nights at Freddy's, I guess, making a decent amount of money, even though it was released same day on Peacock.
Mm-hmm.
And it's lost 95 theaters, 53% drop. But nice to see it's still sticking in there, I guess. Marvels, you probably wish that was a little bit higher, especially domestically. I think, was it like the lowest MCU opening ever?
It was,
Did
yeah.
I see
I
that
think it was the
correctly?
lowest by like
Yeah.
$8 million. I think one of them opened to like 55. I want to
Yeah.
say.
So you probably wish that was a tad higher, but I think everybody knew going in that it wasn't tracking well already, so they probably figured it wasn't going to open that well. But hopefully it has some legs. Let's see. Killers of the Flower Moon, I don't know. I'm not overly surprised by that. And I feel like, some people really loved it, some people didn't. It's also a 3.5-hour movie. So, maybe you have people saying, I'm not going to go see that in a theater. I'll just wait until it comes to streaming or VOD, whatever. But yeah, that's about it. Nice to see Taylor Swift's Eras Tour still hanging in there. How's the capacity been?
It's all right. I mean, it's definitely dying off. I know this
Mhm.
week is the last week that my theater is showing it.
Mhm.
So I think it's steadily dropped off, but there are still definitely people like, I think a lot of it is like parents that are kind of like late to it. Like I see a lot of people like coming out and like wanting to take pictures with the poster, and it's like a dad that's like, "Come on, I really need this." It's like that kind of stuff. It's like, "Oh, the Taylor Swift show's still up. Do you want to go see that?"
Yeah.
Like that's kind of how it's been. But still, it made almost $200 million, which is pretty insane for a concert event or a concert series or anything like that. But yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing is definitely here. Well, like you said, Five Nights at Freddy's is making a very good amount of money on I think they said a $24 million budget or something like that, which is crazy. And then the Marvels, I think, things have opened to lower and made more. Look at Elemental earlier this year, opened to $24 million, and it went on to make $600 million. So, it's really hard to tell. Now, do I think that the Marvels will necessarily have the holding power that Elemental did? No, I don't think so, because it does have, for better or worse, it does have direct competition with Aquaman coming up next month. So, I do think that it's gonna top out lower than something like $500 million, but we really just have to wait and see, because a movie is not made in its does not live or die by its opening weekend. Not necessarily, I would say. But yeah, I just wanted to make sure we hit box office there, talk about what's going on with it, and now I want to talk about this movie. It is called The Marvels. Just 1 second. Get this pulled up. Oh, why is it all red? All right. So, are you ready to talk about the Marvels?
Yeah, did you record?
I did.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, so Marvel's review. You want to start?
I'll start.
All right.
All right. So, welcome everybody to this section of our PFNLive show where we are talking about the Marvels. We're going to be giving you our quick, probably non-spoiler thoughts, giving you our score out of 5, and then I think there's going to be a lot of spoilery things that we're going to want to dive into here, particularly post-credit scenes, particularly end of movie stuff. So, be warned there. But first and foremost, The Marvels, directed by Nia DaCosta. It's the 34th film in the MCU. TJ, What did you think of this movie?
So I will say the Marvels. I enjoyed it. I liked it. Didn't love it, but I think it is far from the worst MCU movie that I feel like it was being made out to be. Uh, you know, at those screenings that were, a couple days before the actual release.
Mm-hmm.
I think obviously where it shines is the chemistry between the three, Miss Marvel, Monica Rambeau, and Captain Marvel. I think all three actors do a great job. I think there's a ton of jokes that hit, some that definitely don't at times, but definitely enough to really work. I think the villain is unfortunately the weakest part of the movie, and that's kind of a trend lately, I feel like.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not anything to do, I feel like, with Zaw Ashton, and maybe a little bit with her. I don't know. The voice really got me. I was like,
Yeah.
I don't know what we're doing with the voice. I think that's probably more direction. But they really didn't do her any favors with the material they gave her. Um, Obviously, Kamala Khan and her family are also a bright spot. The I guess I'll say dancing, singing planet was probably a very low point as well for me. I'd say up to
Oh
that
man.
point, I will say up to that point, I was like, I don't know what everybody's problem is. I was like,
Yeah.
this isn't bad. I was like, it's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and something that really stuck out to me, and I'll stop here and then I'll let you go, but was that I don't know what I felt like the editing was really off in this movie, and and for me it wasn't during the fight scenes
Mm-hmm.
where you'd think it would be. It was everything else. Where I don't know if we're like there was one part where and Carol's on the ship talking to Fury. I think it's when they're kind of going back and forth. And like we come in like mid conversation, and I'm like, what were we saying before that? And then there's another part where they kind of crash into the cornfield, and we have the zoom out, the
Mm-hmm.
shot, and they're like talking and they're arguing for like a good few seconds. And I'm like, when are we gonna get the close up?
Yeah.
And
When
it's
are we
like
gonna
it just
punch
comes
in?
like really late. It's like what I don't know. And there was a few moments through the movie where I was like, what are we doing here? I was like, we have the fight scenes, all those cuts. I thought that worked great.
Mm-hmm.
But it was like those few kind of times throughout the movie where I was like, it doesn't flow right to me. Um but yeah, I didn't love it. I liked it, but I think it's far from the worst MCU movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going 3 stars on this one, 3 out of 5.
Nice. Wow. I really thought that you were. What am I gonna say? I don't know. I feel like you are. I mean, it's like you said with your score. You're just right on the line of good.
Yeah.
And I don't know. There's so much out there about this movie, but for me, I really enjoyed it. I think.
Hmm.
But I'll say just because you brought it up and now it's all I can think about. I went with a 3 out of 5 as well.
Okay.
But I do think I liked it maybe a little bit more than you did.
Yeah.
I'm sure when we get into spoilers, or not even necessarily spoilers, but when we start to break down some specifics, I think maybe I will, realize that I like it a little bit more than you do.
Hmm.
But I think we'll get there. But like you said, I just echo pretty much everything that you said, except for the musical number, which we'll get to that. We'll talk about that in particular. But I thought the cons were fantastic. I thought particularly Kamala Khan, Miss Marvel,
Hmm.
Aman Vellani is easily the bright spot of this movie. But that being said, I don't think that's because Brie Larson or Tiana Paris are at all dull or weakened by that. I just think that it was three really good, solid lead performances from all three of them. I think that some of them have more to do than others. I think Monica probably does get the shorter end of the stick when it
Hmm.
comes to story. Maybe not necessarily action, though. I think she does get a fair mix of the action with the rest of them. But in terms of importance to the overall narrative, um, it was more like Carol was the complete driving force of the story, and then Ms. Marvel was just literally pulled along, and then Monica was there only to kind of be there to talk to Carol, essentially.
Hmm.
But that being said, I still like some of the things they did. And yeah, another one that you didn't mention was, and maybe this will be another sticking point between the differences from what we think, but I loved Fury in this movie. I loved Nick Fury in this movie. I loved what Sam Jackson did. I loved how they wrote it. I did not have any sort of problem with what seems to be a lot of people having an issue with, oh, this feels nothing like he did in Secret Invasion.
And
Yeah.
just to speak to that real quick, and I think this is after watching it, I get what they were saying.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't bother me as much, but I also think that probably has to do with I think this was supposed to come out before Secret Invasion.
Yeah, I think it was.
So
yeah.
that disconnect kind of, in my mind, makes sense.
Yeah, and I know there was like some people, like particularly Roca, like John Roca, his review. That was a very big sticking point with him, to where it really, he really kept coming back to it in his review. That it was just like, well, that if they had to change the release order, that shouldn't matter. I'm judging it on the movie that it is. And I'm like, well, they can't like reshoot all of Sam Jackson's scenes to now be like dour. You know what I mean? Like it just doesn't make any sense. But yeah, so for me, I gave it a 3 out of 5. I agree a lot with the editing. I said in my Letterboxd review, I said I feel like if you poked this movie really hard, it would like come apart like a 3D puzzle or something, or like a Jenga tower. That is kind of what it feels like. Honestly, the movie, it kind of feels like a Jenga tower that's halfway through a game. It's like this is something feels very like loose here. It's like a car driving down the road, and it's like, what's that rattling? And they're like, we'll be there in 5 minutes. Don't even worry about it. That's just kind of what it felt like to me. Just a little, I would say, rough around the edges, maybe. But I thought the movie looked really good. I never had an issue with the look of the trailers or anything. And I don't think the movie itself disappointed in that regard. I thought that it looked very good for a kind of space epic Marvel-y movie. But yeah, I mean, I can't really think if there's anything else in the non-spoiler. I think the villain, I thought overall, easily a top 5 generic Marvel villain. But I did actually like what Zawe Ashton was doing, although it was a little over the top.
And I will say, and I was thinking about it too, I think after I watched it, I was like, and this is just something I think they might just struggle with for however long, is just post Thanos, Kang excluded, it's just, they just can't get a villain that is like, you care about or understand, like Thanos was like, oh, I get the reasoning. I mean, obviously I'm against it, but like I understand where he's coming from and all this stuff.
Yeah.
Thanos was interesting, but ever since then it's been kind of like, I don't know, they got nothing for me,
Yeah. I think I agree with that. But let's you want to get into spoilers on it?
Let's do that, yeah.
Let's hop into spoilers in 3, 2, 1. All right. So we are now full spoiler warning. I would say if you, for some reason, have only watched the Loki finale and have not seen the Marvels, and you are worried about being spoiled for the Marvels, come back in, maybe 20 minutes, or put us on mute, whatever. We'll wave our hands again. But from here on out, it is full spoiler. Everything is open. We'll probably say spoiler warning again before we talk about maybe a post-credit scene. But that being said, I'm going to leave it up to TJ wherever he wants to start first. We could even start with the post-credit scene or the final scene of the movie, whatever.
I don't want to start there yet. Let's talk about the rest of the movie.
Let's talk about the musical.
Okay, we'll talk about the musical.
So for me, I actually think, and I felt very heard and seen on the Geek Buddies review that they did, that I think it was Michael Vogel felt the same way. I actually don't think they went far enough. I think that part of the thing that, because I enjoyed it, I enjoyed the musical Planet, but to me it did feel a little disjointed, and I actually think that for me the reason is, I think they kind of cut it off too soon. They do kind of this little like welcome dance parade song, and then they like sing their like announced entry. And then as soon
Right.
as you start talking to the prince, they go right back to talking regularly. And so I was like, I thought that if they were going to do that, then do it. Like, go for it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, make it interesting. Make an interesting situation where, like, Monica or Kamala has to, like, talk to someone and Carol's not there and they realize, oh, these guys don't even understand what I'm saying. I have to sing it or something.
Right.
Um, I did also think it was kind of weird to just have it be Carol that sang with them. Why kind of bring up this whole thing of singing if you're not really going to do anything majorly interesting with it? But that being said, because my only real complaint is that they didn't go far enough, I don't really have an issue with what there was there. But what did you, or
I just thought it was a weird kind of thing. I felt like, and that another criticism I feel like that you see a lot was this movie's trying to be a lot of different things. It seems like, and it's like I said, they were on a pretty consistent basis. I felt like leading up to that moment where I was like, I don't see what everybody's complaining about. I'm having a relatively good time.
Yeah.
And then when we get to that, it's just kind of like a complete 180 on what the movie is trying to do. And to kind of introduce this thing where it's like, well, yeah, Carol got married off screen kind of, but not really. And it's like, I forget what they call it exactly. Or like, it's like almost like a situationship type thing. And
yeah. Oh, they said a
and
marriage
now we're
of
gonna,
convenience or whatever.
yeah, now, but they only communicate in song. But actually, the prince that I'm married to, he's actually bilingual, so he could just speak English. And he's on screen for like 2 seconds, and then he's gone. And we'll probably never see him again.
Yeah.
I would be shocked. But it was just all kind of weird and jumbled. It just didn't. It felt like it was in the wrong movie. I don't know. It just felt really out of place to me. And at that point, I was kind of like, okay, I see what people are talking about.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I felt like I found myself trying to like, find my footing after that. Basically, like, what are we doing here?
Mm-hmm. See, I thought I just liked it. I liked the concept. I do think that it was a little out of left field, but. And I did think it was, again, I just think it was weird, and, whatever you want to believe that's out there talking about this movie, there was a report that I guess the musical sequence at one point was like 25 minutes long or something, which I also don't see how that was possible, that they were going to do 25 minutes of singing. That sounds a little crazy, but I do agree that it's kind of there, and then it just like ends. And we don't really get a lot of time with the prince himself. But then I do think it goes into, and we can kind of transition here over to talking about the action. It does go almost right into an action sequence, and that's another thing that I think we should talk about this movie is just in general how fast this movie moves. It moves very, very quick. And just saying that now, I actually just realized... where does this stack up for you against like the editing and the pacing in Rise of Skywalker? Because now that I just said that out loud, I forgot that movie also kind of infamously was known for just kind of moving at a breakneck pace, at least for the first half. But I feel like even though this editing also felt very fast, almost too fast, I still think that for me, the editing was a little better and a little more managed in this than that movie. Not to directly compare it. I'm just saying, like...
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to rewatch Rise of Skywalker. I never felt like I was... Again, this was however many years ago, 2019 when it came out. I don't recall feeling, rushed. I think there was definitely way more issues with that movie than the editing or the pace of it. But yeah, I agree with you. I thought this movie... again, I had those little kind of qualms with the editing and where we're cutting and all that stuff, but I thought the action scenes were really, really good.
Yeah,
I thought the choreography, maybe you leave the final battle out of it. We're just in that room.
Yeah, and I saw some people going the opposite way, saying that the action got better as it went along. I thought easily the best action was the house and the space station at the beginning when they were originally switching.
And I do agree with that, and I think, again, something I kind of come back to as well with that, and maybe it was just, and I guess this is kind of a negative too. I never felt like it was kind of totally explained how that whole thing worked, where it
Mm-hmm.
was like, okay, why are they like how like what causes them to kind of go back, like go
To
like
switch with each other
yeah, because like at one point
when
I
they
think
use
she's
their
like
powers at the same time.
at the same
Yeah,
time.
that
Okay,
that
got
is
it.
not explain that. Well, they don't really
Because
figure
at
that
one
out until like 20
right
minutes later.
one point I think Carol says like, "Oh, I like used it too long." I thought she says at one point where I'm like, "Oh, so is it like a timing thing?" But if you're saying like if they use it at the same time, that makes more sense
Mm-hmm.
obviously. Because I couldn't quite figure out like what. And sorry, one other question. Maybe you have the answer to. Maybe you don't. What causes? Is it just like what if all three of them do it at the same time? It's like they all switch.
Yeah, then they all switch.
Okay, I
Yeah,
got it. Okay.
yeah,
Because the times where I was like only two of them would move, and I'd be like, but I was like, shouldn't they all? But whatever.
yeah,
That explains it better.
yeah.
Um,
No, believe me,
but
yeah. I
yes,
I didn't really. I kind of like knew it in the back of my mind, but then I kind of
yeah,
after the movie because I had those same questions where I was like, well, how come only
right,
two did it that time?
right,
But this time all three did, and but this time it was in
yeah,
a different order. And then
hmm
and then I thought as soon as and I just told you that, but once you start thinking about it, it's like okay, so that kind of introduces the element of that means that's how they control it. They go, okay,
hmm
Monica and Carol go, Kamala
right,
and Carol go, like So
right,
I think they can. That's kind of a better
yeah. And
explanation on how they honed it in.
I did like the montage of them like kind of learning on the ship.
Oh
They're doing
yeah.
the double dutch thing and all that other stuff. I thought that was really fun to see. Like I said earlier, like I think the movie is definitely the best when it's just the three of them interacting with each other and joking
Hmm.
around and stuff like that. But yeah, no, I really enjoyed all the fight scenes. Again, maybe we could have made the last one a little bit more. Uh, I don't know, more visually satisfying, I guess. I don't know the term.
Yeah.
Um, where it's not just this
A little more
black
dynamic.
background of a room dynamic.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you said, the the first one when they're like, what the hell is going on in the house in the space station, and then the second one I think is when they're like fighting on like the singing planet or whatever we want to call it.
Yeah.
I thought those were good.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought especially kind of circling back to when we started the action talk, the action on the singing planet, I think for me was maybe the best action or maybe just the best
Hmm.
use of action because I think the house fight was probably more fun.
Yeah.
But just the fact that you kind of had like, okay, Monica and Carol are gonna go after Darben, and then Kamala is gonna be dealing with the goons. With the Kamala
Hmm.
and the Prince are gonna be dealing with the goons, and I like that he's like kind of a nod because in the comics she uses her sweater or her scarf to like
Hmm.
whip people and wrap people up and stuff. So I like that they got that in the movie. Is he was like, why aren't you using your scarf? Like, and then she just started like wrapping it around people's heads and
Right.
like yanking them and stuff. So I thought that that was really cool. And then when that scene really went crazy, when Kamala then starts to go after Darben and they all just start switching and we get to the roof of that little transport thing. I thought all that was really, really good. And emotional, when Kamala gets up there and you realize you're like, oh, she's gonna get the other bangle,
Hmm.
and then she feels like she failed Carol. Another section that we can talk about here is that also everything with like the scrolls and stuff. Um,
Oh, we're gonna talk about it. Yeah.
okay, all right, but yeah, in terms of wrapping up the action, I'll say I
Hmm.
think it just had really good action, surprisingly, and I
Yeah.
thought that they used the little gimmick of them switching pretty well. I mean, I think that you could have used it probably even better, but I do think that they used it pretty well, and it's probably one of those things that you could always bring that back when these three characters, within a
Hmm.
battle in an Avengers movie, you could be like, "Oh, they're switching again. That's so cool. Remember when they did that in the Marvels? Like, years from now." So I
Hmm.
think it's something that we could see again. But where do you want to go next?
Uh, let's go scroll and Kree, and then we'll kind
All
of
right.
go into Darben, I guess, off of that.
Okay.
So the thing I took away from this movie with the scrolls is they still don't have a home.
Yeah.
Still don't. After all this time. And I think again, this is something where I was like, uh for me it was like oh yeah, Secret Invasion was definitely supposed to be after this.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of like it's almost like I feel like with the scroll kind of that kind of side plot thing where it's kind of like, but didn't we just like do this in like Secret Invasion?
Yeah.
So like, they're still stranded. Like obviously there's a lot of them, and they're spread across the universe. But like, I don't know. I'm like, I feel like we already did this. And then, whoops. And then when they all get on the ship, it's like, well, we're going to some other planet somewhere. I'm like, or with Tess Thompson.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, I guess maybe we'll see him again sometime. I don't know. But for me, it's just that whole kind of scroll creep. It's just not very interesting.
Yeah, I guess I guess I'm just like, oh yeah, like when the Kree or the Skrulls show up in a Marvel movie, I'm just like, oh, awesome. But I guess if I really stopped and then obviously leading up to Secret Invasion, you're like, well, the Skrulls are cool because they're gonna have Secret Invasion. That they're gonna do Secret Invasion one day, so the Skrulls are very cool. Right. Now that Secret Invasion is past, I think that was my last remaining, kind of hope that for the Skrulls or whatever, is that I'm just like, well, yeah, but one day all this is going to be leading to that, and that's going to be awesome. So now that Secret Invasion is done and over with, and, we're just kind of, they didn't even really need to be Skrulls other than, the Fury and Captain Marvel connection, that's the first movie that we're in was Captain Marvel. But really, I mean, none of them shapeshift, and if they do, it's not important to the plot in any way at all. I feel like you could have just had really any species that was just like, could have been refugees of anything. But that does get a little bit into the Dar-Ben motivation talk. Is this whole thing over, the Skrull and Kree conflict, the Kree Civil War that we found out about all the way back in the first Guardians movie. So I guess, well, let's talk. Do you have more on the Skrull specifically, or do you want to kind of start talking about? Okay, yeah. So with Dar-Ben, I mean, the whole motivation of, which I thought worked, tying it into the first Captain Marvel movie. And saying, like, in the end of the first movie, when she takes out the Supreme Intelligence, you're like, yeah, let's go, like, get rid of this thing. But then this movie's like, well, no, you can't just kind of, take away a people's god and also, kind of city computer on a very real level too, and then just expect everything to be fine when you never check in on them. So I kind of believed it in that way, that she would be angry. But then I guess let's talk about motive, and let's talk about just kind of her overall plan to kind of resource harvest from elsewhere in the galaxy, basically.
Which does end up getting like it is unfortunate because she has this whole plan, and whether you think it's probably a good plan or not, it's kind of solved within 5 seconds at the end of the movie. Yeah. Where it's like, oh, let me just relight the sun.
Yeah.
It's
like,
well,
well,
why
you had 30 years to think of that?
You could have done that. Yeah. Come on, Carol. You could have done that a while ago. As far as motivation goes, I get it. I get the motive. It's just, we've seen better villains, better motivations in the MCU already. So I feel like if it doesn't reach that level, it's kind of like, well, who cares, And I'm sure the audience is not very interested in the Kree anyway. To me, when I saw her on screen, I was like, this is just like, it's just another Ronin, and I don't like Ronin. So I'm like, I don't really care. Fortunately,
the real question is better or worse than Malekith?
I don't know. I'd probably say it probably has to be better, right?
That's what I would say.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know, like stealing water from the water planet and then bringing it over to the, and then we're going to steal the sun, and then, all that stuff. I'm still not really sure why. Can you explain to me the whole kind of, we can't wear the two gauntlets thing at the same time? Miss Marvel can do it.
Yeah, I took that as because Miss Marvel has, like, mutant DNA. Like, okay. That's how I took that. But then also you could say, well, weren't the bangles created by the Kree? So wouldn't somebody with Kree DNA be fine to use them?
Yeah.
But I guess they didn't think that far. But like, yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely weak motivation and you know, everything like that. But I don't know. I just kind of liked the plan. You know what I mean? I feel like much more than anything to do with her motivation, I just kind of liked the plan. I thought it was just interesting. And then obviously I haven't seen this movie in a very long time, so obviously after seeing it, I saw all of these Spaceballs comparisons and realized it is very similar with trying to take the other planet's air supply. You know, they turned the air back on. I do see that, but in the moment I was like, man, this is actually pretty original, that it's like, it's always like, and then I'm going to destroy the world. But why do they want to destroy the world? Yeah. She was not trying to destroy the world. She was just trying to
save her planet.
She was trying to save her planet, and I don't even mean it in like she was doing a good thing. I just mean it in a like, I liked the level of the stakes. That it was like, yeah, she's taking this water and she's sending her military out to basically attack all these places, and that's very not good. Right. But you know, and then she does try to take. Well, they say that she's coming after our son, but then like really all she's doing, it's siphoning off like a little tiny like thing.
I think it was gonna take the entire thing. I think that's what it was.
That was what they were implying.
And going back to that, the fact again, it's kind of that thing where it's like, Carol, it's been 30 years. Just go light the sun back up. You're feeling guilty about it anyway, so go do it. You know, we don't need Monica to be trapped in another universe for you to go light the sun back up.
It was what was keeping her from going back home was her guilt over it.
Yeah, like go do it. Yeah, just go do it then.
Yeah, no.
Clearly, we're not searching for another home for the Skrulls. Okay, clearly we could. Yeah, we can go light up the sun.
She's really got to, you know, like in Secret Invasion, people were like, "Well, Captain Marvel's very busy," and
is she?
So Nick Fury, you know, it kind of does fall to him to keep up that promise that they both made. And this, it's like she had time. She definitely had time.
What's she doing on a spaceship?
Exactly.
Just chilling.
Yeah. Like in Infinity War, I think we definitely have the idea that it's like, you know, she's just kind of like out about in the galaxy, just like flying around. But now it's like, well, she has a house, she has a spaceship. Like she's kind of just like a loner Guardians, you know, just kind of a loner Guardians of the Galaxy, or Guardian of the Galaxy. But yeah, I thought Dar-Benn was fine, perfectly fine, and again, I just more so liked the plan, and I liked the use of the rift points that we know from like the Guardians movies and Avengers and stuff like that. I really liked that, how they kind of brought that element that we've known from the MCU, but made it a very specific thing to this plan, and this movie is, you know, making them. I like the bit of lore that we got that basically the people that originally created the bangles used the bangles to make all the jump points, and that they kind of like mapped the stars using these bangles. I thought that just kind of imbues Kamala's bangle with like even more kind of like intrigue for me.
Yeah. So, you know, as we move away from Dar-Benn, we'll talk about, you know, Fury, and we'll talk about the cats as well.
Oh yeah.
But a question for you, speaking of the bangles, does Kamala actually need them? Because there is one point, I swear, at the end of the movie, where she does her powers without them. So I'm like, does she even need them?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was that established before? Am I wrong?
It's the whole like, you're a mutant. And I think maybe the whole reason that he said that, because I think I'm now trying to think back to Miss Marvel, which was almost 2 years ago. Her friend, remember, he's like, I didn't understand. I want to say maybe she even uses it without the bangle in that show.
Oh, okay.
Because there's a reason that like he says something like, it just didn't make sense to me why you could still use it even without the bangle.
It makes sense to me either.
Yeah, so I looked it up, and you have a mutant X gene.
Yeah.
So I think that was the idea, but she absolutely does use it without the bangle
Yeah.
because
I
she
think
scoops them all back with her giant hand,
yeah.
and she brings the bangles back in.
I don't know. I think to me, it's a thing when you say it's like, oh, she's a mutant, and I feel like to me, when you say mutant, it always means you have something physically about you that's different. Whereas this is like where I'm just transforming this matter, that's not really that. It's or light, right? That's what she's like
Yeah,
kind of
light.
manipulating. So it's not like a physical thing. You know what I mean? So I think that's kind of where it gets me. So maybe we just ditch the Bengals at some point. I don't. How
Maybe.
do
Oh
they
yeah,
really help?
I think you could see a similar path of, like Thor with Mjolnir. It's like
Right. Yeah.
Thor it's almost identical. I mean, it's like the audience and Thor himself just kind of assumed that his power was through the hammer.
Right.
But then in Ragnarok, obviously, that's the whole point of that movie is that he realizes that it had nothing to do with the hammer. The hammer just kind of enhanced it and channeled it kind of.
Right.
So I think you could absolutely see a Miss Marvel who no longer has the bangle at all. I think that is definitely possible. Maybe it's one of those things where it's like, hey, we have to destroy the bangles after whatever the next Avengers movie is. I think that's definitely possible. But yeah, let's talk about Monica Rambeau. How'd you feel about Tiana Paris, Monica Rambeau in this?
Let's talk about like going with Monica. Let's talk about the kind of conflict as well, I guess.
With her and Carol.
Yeah. So yeah, I agree with you, Tiana Paris. I feel like maybe she was a little shortchanged in this movie. Maybe not enough to do. But I think what she, when she was on screen, I thought she was great. Glad to see more of her after WandaVision. It's been a long time. And I'm very interested to see where her character goes after this movie ended. As far as like the argument between her and Carol and that conflict, I liked it, but at the same time, it's like you have that in your mind where it's like, okay, so what kept you from coming back was that you felt guilty about taking away the resources from the Kree, but we already solved that at the end of the movie when Monica is stuck in another universe. But Carol, you could have done that like 5 minutes after you destroyed the what's it called?
The Supreme Intelligence.
The Supreme Intelligence, and you could have came back.
Yeah.
So like, and then I also do feel like maybe it was solved a little too easily. Like it was like one conversation in the beginning and the beginning of the movie, and then we don't really do anything with it after that. Maybe except like the memory thing.
Yeah,
and then
I want to hit the memory thing too. Yeah.
Right, and then it's kind of solved in this like kind of quick conversation in this field.
Yeah.
And it's like, I think there's more there. There's more to kind of discover and talk about. So I liked Tiana Paris and I liked her performance, but it was just kind of like that conflict wasn't quite all the way there for me.
Yeah. Yeah, and I do think that that's again, another ding on the movie, another negative is the editing and the pacing. It just feels like there was richer moments and like kind of like deeper moments to be had with these characters that we just kind of didn't get. That being said, though, let's kind of on the topic of Monica and Carol and everything because it's a big part of it. Let's talk about what did you think of that memory scene where like because a lot of I'm telling you, man, for the life of me, I sometimes think my brain is just different than everyone else on the planet because I go on Twitter and people are saying that's horrible that she violated her memories. And I was like, I didn't see it like that. I didn't even see it like that at all. Because, and I know I have seen other people go like, well, they willingly put on the devices. I took it more like Carol had never done that with another person. So I think Carol was just like, oh, Maria. And then I think it just like spirals. I don't think that Carol is like, I need to go deeper. You know what I mean? I think it was like a kind of, she just started living in it and like they just all started coming up. You know what I mean? But what did you think of that scene and how did it work for you? I liked it and I thought it was pretty effective in kind of furthering just kind of all three of their connections, I guess. Because we also saw
Yeah, I'd agree
Kamala's
with you in
family
that.
and Pakistan and everything like that too.
Yeah, I would say I liked it. Again, it's kind of at the end of the day, it kind of is just like a recap
Yeah, yeah, that is
where
true.
it's like, oh,
Yeah, there's a
remember this is what
lot of.
happened in Captain
I
Marvel.
was like, damn, they really shot WandaVision and Miss Marvel well, because
Yeah.
those shots from the show look good on
Mhm.
the big screen.
Right. But yeah, I was fine with it. I never thought of it as like, oh, I'm invading, this person's memories or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's me not looking at it that deep, I guess. I don't know. Obviously anybody can see it any way they want to, but yeah, to me it never kind of came off that way. But I do get like Monica's like kind of, I don't know what the term would be, annoyance, I guess, with it. That does make sense.
Mm-hmm.
But again, like you said, they put those on willingly, so it's like I don't really know what you expect.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, that just kind of leads into that scene that I did like, and that you said you like too. That the bonding scene with the double dutch and the doing all that. I thought that those types of scenes when it's just the three of them together is when this movie is like singing. No pun intended. Actually, I didn't mean that. But it really is the best parts of this movie, and to me, I guess, and I don't want to speak for you. I mean, you can let me know what you think about what I'm saying here, but for me, I just think it's like, listen, man, this is a three-hander, and if the three-hander works at the core of the movie, I can forgive a lot. You know what I mean? Like, same with anything. Like, one of probably the not worst movies of all time, but not a great movie. Two Guns with Denzel Washington and Mark Wahlberg. That movie is horrendous, but they are fantastic together in it. And so, I can forgive a lot with some great performances. And I think, let's transition to the woman herself, Brie Larson. I thought this was easily her most likable. Not that I ever really disliked her, but she did feel like kind of a distant character in really all of her previous appearances. But in this, to me, she felt more in line with the character that we saw in Shang-Chi and with the character that we saw in what was the other one that she popped up in? Oh, and in the end of Ms. Marvel. Both of those post-credit scenes back to back, I was like, whoa, she's like kind of like, not bubbly, but like she's just very like rambunctious, I feel like. And she is definitely that in this movie, and in the first movie of hers, and kind of in Endgame, she was just very stoic, quiet, very kind of stern person. So I thought that they kind of gave her a great personality, great personality development, and I thought that they almost kind of like Ragnarok with Thor, going, oh my god, Chris Hemsworth is kind of a funny guy. Brie Larson is kind of a, not a weirdo, but just like she's kind of like funny. Like she's just very like quirky, I would say. That's the word that I was looking for. And I think that they finally wrote that into Carol. And I thought it was the movie was better for it. So how did you feel about Carol in this?
Yeah, I'm with you. I thought this is probably her best movie playing Captain Marvel. I never really had a problem with the character. I always felt like her playing the character and Brie Larson in general just always got the most unnecessary hate in the world.
Absolutely.
I mean, I think anybody playing a character and people like hating on them personally is the most over the top thing ever. But I feel like, Brie Larson definitely, out of anybody in the MCU, I feel like probably gets it the worst.
It's the same as Daisy Ridley. I mean, it's literally just the same. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I really enjoyed her performance. I thought, again, like we keep saying, the three of them on screen at the same time, definitely hands down best parts of the movie.
Yeah.
But even like, even not the best parts of the movie, like again, the singing kind of the dance scene, all that stuff, that worked as well as it could because she seemed like to me that she was having a good time. And even again, her and I feel like Amon Vellani too have really good kind of playing off jokes with each other and stuff like that throughout the movie that I thought worked
which is
really well.
So necessary to the future and the dynamic between those two characters. And so for me, it's like Thor 1 is good. We keep bringing these movies, I keep bringing it back to the Thor movies, but just because Thor and Loki and everybody, all that corner is on my mind. But it's just like the first Thor movie, it's not the best movie of the MCU. The second Thor movie is not the best movie of the MCU. But every time they kept kind of getting closer to what it should be, essentially. And I feel like they are doing that in this, where it's like now I'm so confident that the next time we see these two or these three together, it's going to be even more fun, and it's just going to be a new dynamic. I would love to get to the point where maybe, the Ms. Marvel, Captain Marvel dynamic could be like, Tony Stark and Peter Parker. I know that's definitely not the most popular dynamic in the MCU. A lot of people hate that. I'm not
a fan of people. I'm not a fan of the people like, okay, Miss Marvel, are we done? Does anybody sick of this, like her fawning over Captain Marvel already? Like, and people other people on Twitter brought up, like, it's like, was it a problem when Spider-Man did that when Peter did that with Tony Stark? Like, for however many movies that he does it, like, it's like, are you just saying this because of, she's a woman or something like that? Or, do you actually have like an actual gripe?
Yeah.
I thought everything that she did in those moments where she was like, oh my God, like, you're Captain Marvel, I stole your name. Like, all that stuff. Like, I thought that was really funny and worked really well.
I liked that. Yeah, I liked she was like, and just that I didn't even think about copyright until just now meeting you. If you want to send me a cease and desist, that's okay. Like that was, all that stuff was hilarious. Iman Vellani was so good. I guess let's talk about Iman Vellani and Miss Marvel and the cons and everything. I think we've said kind of enough that Miss Marvel is a great part of this movie. So what's maybe like one of your specific favorite moments? And then let's talk about the cons. And then I guess kind of let's talk about the cons and then Fury, and then let's get into the post-credits.
We got to get and credits scenes. For me, I think probably just going on favorite scene for the cons was probably when they're
and let's talk Flurkin.
Yes, and they do start kind of prominently, and then they kind of get pushed to the side a little bit.
Yeah, as like the action
later in the movie.
Up.
Yeah, but I thought maybe one of my favorite scenes was them kind of in, I think, Fury's office or whatever, and Goose is like with his tongue, or is it a girl or a boy? I don't even know. But Goose is like licking their I think it's their butt or something with that long tongue, and just how disgusted Miss Khan is at the whole thing. I just thought that was really funny.
I thought a great line she had too, Sarah, was in the beginning when Monica goes, "Then I walked through a witch's hex and I got my powers," and Carol goes, "You walked through a witch's hex?" She goes, "Yeah," and Miss Khan just goes, "A witch's hex, good for you. I'm so proud." She was just like, "Good for you." Like, she's just like, it was just such an odd moment, but she plays those so well.
Or even when her dad is talking to the one dude on the ship, and he's like, well, if you invest however much money, for your retirement, it's never too late.
401k or whatever.
I thought that was really funny too.
Yeah, that was really good.
Just those little small moments I felt like here and there really worked. Obviously we know how great they are from Miss Marvel, so hopefully we get more of them. I'm assuming again, I think there's a season 2 of Miss Marvel.
Yeah.
So obviously we'll be seeing them again, but I thought they were great for when they were on screen.
What did you think about let's kind of roll it all into one and say kind of the cons dynamic with Fury in this movie, and then everything with the Flurkins and the other memory sequence. I just loved my favorite one was when they were crashing at the end and the brothers praying, and Fury goes, "Are you praying?" And he goes, "Yeah, sorry." And he goes, "Don't stop." He goes, "Don't stop. We need all the help we can get."
I don't know. There's definitely a tone difference between Secret Invasion and Miss Marvel. I think, not every single joke from Sam Jackson hits, but I feel like when they do, they are funny. and to me, it seemed like he was having a good time. I don't know if
Absolutely.
people thought maybe he was phoning it in or anything like that, but I don't know. To me, it seemed like he was having a fun time. So, um, whenever he can convey that through these jokes that he's telling, I'm gonna have a good time watching him play Nick Fury.
Like when they were plummeting to the earth, and then at the last second, it's Carol. He goes, oh no, it's okay, it's just Carol. That was great. And then I just remember too, her Mr. Khan, when they're like FaceTiming her, and Fury's with them, and they're on like the space elevator, and he goes, Kamala, Nicholas has brought us to hell. And it's just like, help us. He's just like, what the hell are you talking about? But yeah, I definitely didn't think it was like phoning it in. I thought it was exactly what they wanted from him. And I think that makes sense that it's like Nick Fury in the humor and the style of Miss Marvel. And I thought that worked very, very well. And again, just kind of going all the way back to kind of the beginning with the Secret Invasion tone difference, whether it was before or after, it's a different project. The tone in Iron Man 2 is not the same tone as the first Captain Marvel. You know what I mean? But Nick Fury is in both of those movies. It's like he's been more comedic, less comedic. But also, by the way, I do want to say, almost excluding Secret Invasion, which, by the way, watch that show again, he is also very funny in, and is cracking jokes all the time in Secret Invasion, particularly with Talos, but really all the time in that show. From the beginning, Nick Fury has always been a badass, yes, but a funny character. He's always been funny. He's always been written with funny one-liners. Yeah. It's part of his appeal.
Bitch,
you know what I mean?
Space.
Yeah, exactly. Bitch, you've been to space, to Spider-Man. Exactly. Wow, that guy. Sometimes my mind is just blown with how many.
I think that might be my favorite line.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that whole like, what about Thor? Unavailable.
Yeah.
What about Doctor Strange? Can't locate him. What do you think I need? Bitch, you've been to space. Like that was great. But yeah, I loved Sam Jackson in this movie. I would go as far as to say I didn't have a problem with him at all. I really, really liked it. Like you said, just more the comedic writing. Not every one-liner hit, but I mean the whole point of a one-liner is if you can get a couple of them to hit, then that's pretty much all you need. What about the Flurkin scene? So we get these eggs popping up all over the space station. We don't know what they are. Dar-Ben attacks the space station. The space station's losing power. We got to get out of here. There's only 2 lifeboats. I thought this was like a very clever thing that they did. That they were like, well, we only have enough for this many people. And then as soon as you kind of realize what's happening, you're like, but if you put the people in the cats. It's like, well, what
I thought that was
and old Deuteronomy and such.
Yeah, that was fine. Kind of an interesting way to that I didn't really expect it, honestly. But I guess it kind of made sense. Complete honesty, when we walked in to the theater, they were selling like the brain like popcorn things or whatever they had.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But for some reason, when I was watching the movie, it like did not click with me that that's what they were.
Yeah, I had a genuine moment of like, what are we doing?
I was like, at first I was like, are those bombs or something?
Yeah,
like I didn't know.
What is this?
But obviously when they start hatching all that stuff, I thought it was fine. It makes sense. Makes sense that they wouldn't have. I don't know how many escape pods that they had, but I get why they wouldn't maybe have enough for everybody. So then you're like, well, just have the cats eat the people, and then we'll just
save some space.
We'll just throw them up when we we'll just throw them up when we get to Earth. So yeah, it was fine. I don't know.
Yeah, I liked it. It definitely didn't bother me. I know a lot of people. I feel like overall this review of ours is going to be very much kind of in the minority. I think even though both of us had issues with it, I think we both liked it a lot more than certain parts of the internet and certain amount of people. But last thing, let's talk about the post-credit scenes here. Well, I guess the last scene of the movie and then the post-credit scene. I will be right back, but keep talking.
Yeah, so I guess we'll probably talk about not the post-credit scene, like the end pre-credit scene, whatever you want to call it. Uh, Kate Bishop makes an appearance. Haley Steinfeld is being recruited by Kamala to join the Young Avengers in a Nick Fury-esque way, which I thought worked actually really well. I thought it was really funny. Um, Now the real question is, do you think is that how Amon Vline is going to show up at the end of each movie doing that with Florence Pugh and maybe Wanda's kids at some point? I imagine they'd be in there somewhere. Who else? Um, Ironheart, maybe. Is that what she's gonna do at the end of each movie? I don't know. I don't know if Ms. Marvel should necessarily be the leader either. I don't know if she really like radiates that kind of leader energy, I guess, at this moment. I mean, I feel like it would probably more likely be like a Florence Pugh or Haley Steinfeld leading that movie or that group, that team. Um, but yeah, so I thought that was really cool. That worked well for me, and we'll see where that leads. Hopefully, it leads somewhere. Marvel lately has set up a lot of things that don't necessarily go anywhere. So I pray to God that Young Avengers movie does get made at some point. And then obviously post credit scene, way, that was definitely obviously a big hype moment. I feel like for a lot of people, or not for a lot of people, for like everybody. I know definitely a big moment for Sean. Maybe one of your favorite parts of the movie. Before we get to that, what did you think of the Haley Steinfeld moment, the Kate Bishop moment?
I thought that it was very good. Like you said, I thought that the whole Nick Fury joke, just like doing that, because you see earlier in the movie that she's asking about the little iPad thing, and then you see her kind of, I think she even like tucks it into the couch at their house or something. So you kind of forget about it, and then you realize that she has it. Yeah, exactly. Imagine how many more people they have intel on. Like you were saying, all the people that you're saying, there's even like Isaiah Bradley, Elijah Bradley's grandson, Isaiah, as like a young Captain America. There's a ton of people. They even name in the scene, Captain or Miss Marvel says, and I think Ant-Man has a daughter. So it's like she's already got her list queued up. But I love the scene. It's kind of another weird editing choice of, it really felt like that was also a post-credit scene that they just put into the actual film. I'm wondering if maybe Marvel is just kind of testing moving away from putting a scene all the way at the end, just because they know it's like, all right, I think we might already be testing people's patience here with some of this stuff. Let's, not force everyone to wait, 9 minutes. That being said, I do think that it makes more sense for somebody like Kate Bishop to run the team, kind of like how Captain America was really the one who ran the Avengers. Tony just kind of facilitated, you know what I mean? Like, he even says in Age of Ultron at one point, he's like, oh, he's the boss, I just pay for everything. Not that I think Ms. Marvel's going to be paying for everything, but I just think we could see kind of that dynamic where maybe, Kate Bishop is more the older actual lead of the team, but Ms. Marvel, can have kind of another role. But in terms of the scene itself, as soon as you see the shadow of the bow, I was like, oh, like, this is happening. And also, as much as I was hyped up for the post-credit scene, the fact that it basically leaked online, 2 or 3 weeks earlier.
Is that the thing that leaked?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't even a leak.
Okay, yeah.
It wasn't even a leak. It was just like people going, man, if what I heard is true. And then people going, who is it? And then every single person going, oh, it's Kelsey Grammer's Beast. It's Kelsey Grammer's Beast. And it was basically spearheaded by Grace Randolph, was like the first one that was like, I'm hearing that there's somebody who only got one shot at playing a character before who's going to be in it and all this stuff. So that just kind of took a little wind out of the sails for the second one. I love the second one. Definitely for what it means and the scene itself, I love the second one way more than the first one. But just that surprise, I had no idea that Kate Bishop was going to be in it. So that was really cool. And honestly, another thing about this movie is it's really the first one that goes, these Disney Plus shows are happening. You know,
Mm-hmm.
they are happening within this universe. And I think that's very cool. Speaking of going to the final post credit scene, have you gotten into that yet?
No.
Okay. So we have, again, the end of the movie. We kind of breezed by that, but when the portal is closed, Monica is trapped on the other side, trapped in seemingly space or in Earth's orbit or something like that. And so the post-credit scene, Monica wakes up. You see her mother sitting there, Lashana Lynch, who is back again for her third variant in the MCU already.
Mm-hmm.
But she's back again, and she goes, oh, like, she starts calling her mom and saying, it's so good to see you. And she doesn't recognize her at all. And then I think she stands up, she calls for help or calls for somebody to come in. And then through the doors, just you hear that voice, you know, well, how are things going in here? And there it is. A slightly different looking, a slightly more comic book accurate, a slightly more X-Men animated series looking Kelsey Grammer as Beast, more CGI than the practical hair and everything like that. I thought it looked good. I really liked just how like comic booky it looked while also still looking like Kelsey Grammer. I thought that the blue fur looked perfect. I thought it looked the exact right shade. And then they have a little bit of a dialogue exchange, and Beast says, you know, we better get going. The professor wants to know her the results of her latest tests right away.
Mm-hmm.
And then they leave the room, and when Beast moves his big shoulders out of frame, you see the door to Cerebro right behind him. So we are in the X Mansion. Monica Rambeau is 100% in the X Mansion, in the X-Men headquarters. What did you think? I mean, not only about Kelsey Grammer himself, but just, you're a mutant, Kamala. You know, who's the other one? Oh, Namor. He has a mutation. You know, this is not going, oh, I think your blood is mutated. This is the X-Men in the X-Mansion in the MCU for the very first time. What did you think? And what do you think?
Yeah, I was shocked. I don't know what it means, honestly. As I've said multiple times, I have not seen all the X-Men movies, so I will definitely be catching up on those. But yeah, I was pretty surprised to see him, honestly. Obviously, it's kind of a sad moment at the beginning where she's like, "Oh, mom," and it's like she has no idea who she is, and it's really kind of a sad moment right there. But yeah, seeing kind of Beast walk in there, and at first I didn't even realize it was him. But however many years it's been, and obviously his voice changed since then. But and I know you were hoping for a practical suit, unfortunately.
Yeah, I was definitely hoping
go CG. Yeah.
But I think more than anything, I think changing that is just to be indicative of saying this is not necessarily that universe. That this is like a very similar universe.
Oh, okay.
Kind of the same way that like the Illuminati and Doctor Strange. It was like the X-Men are in that world and Professor X is on the Illuminati, but it's not the Professor X from Logan and stuff.
Like the way I was looking at it was like they introduced this and it's like, okay, here's like the X-Men right here's your first taste of them, but it's like it's not going to be like our X-Men.
Yeah,
you know
it's not going to be like
it's
the
new
new MCU X-Men going forward.
Right. It'll just be this other universe that obviously they'll all collide at some point, we'll get whatever. But yeah, it was really cool to see. Obviously name drop Professor X. And yeah, I thought it was a good, little introduction. Was this the thing? Do you know? Was this the thing that they like shot like however many weeks ago, or whatever it was, or was it the Haley Steinfeld thing?
They couldn't.
Wasn't there one?
There was
a few months ago.
It would have been.
Oh yeah, you're right.
So whatever they filmed,
ago.
They filmed would have had to have been at least probably 3 months ago. So I would assume was probably a while ago. But I mean, also this film had a very long production. So it's kind of hard to tell what it could be. But Yeah, just to close out, I really thought that the post credit scene was awesome. And I'm very excited for what it means. And I think just what it means is like if we really are, you know what I think it is, by the way?
Mm.
I think that the universe that we just saw with Monica in it, I think there's a very high chance that the comic book accurate Wolverine suit and everything like that we're seeing in Deadpool 3, I think there's a chance that that is the universe that the Deadpool 3 Wolverine is from. That this
Mm-hmm.
is some sort of, it's basically the Fox universe, but maybe it's basically the Fox universe, but everybody looks way more comic book accurate.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Right.
think that that is a very, very high probability, in my opinion. Um, but yeah, just to close out, I really enjoyed the movie. I thought it was perfectly fine. I thought it was very fun at times, even very enjoyable. I liked all three of the leads. I thought that Nick Fury was really, really good. I think it just comes down to some, and it does knock it down to a 3 out of 5 for me, but I think it just comes down to some basic building block things about movies that just like editing, pacing, um, maybe some of the writing, some of the directing. I think just it could have been a little more of a cohesive feeling experience, I guess is what I'll say.
Yeah. Yeah, I pretty much echo everything you were saying. I think, when the three stars are on screen at the same time, I think the movie's like really good. But everything else, like the villain, some of the humor, the editing, some of the writing, none of that really I feel like meshes well enough to really put it up there with, the top tier Marvel movies. But again, I feel like it's nowhere close to the worst one.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so with that, 3 out of 5 stars.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, ironic. It works when the 3 stars are on screen, and that's what we give it, 3 stars. But yeah, guys, let us know. Are we crazy? I think some people might think that we are, because there's definitely people who do not agree with us about this movie out there. Are you one of those people? Did you not care for this movie as much? Did you love it even more than we did? Did you maybe not even feel some of the editing and pacing stuff that we were talking about? Let us know that and more down below in the comments. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share this with a Marvel fan, MCU fan, whatever, maybe a Miss Marvel fan or a WandaVision fan like TJ. Um, Finally getting a sequel to his favorite show. Um, Let us know what you thought of the Marvels down below, and we will catch you in the next video. All right. Damn, it's good movie in my opinion. I think it's okay. All right. Are you ready for some Loki talk?
Yeah, let's not go, I feel like
Another
we went a
hour.
little bit too
Yeah.
long with that
Yeah.
conversation.
Yeah. Let's just talk finale and just
Mhm.
how we felt. I mean, I'm good. I'm
Yeah.
good to honestly just do like not even really that long.
Okay.
Like at all. But
Yeah.
like I'm good to just go spoilers right off the bat because it's
Yeah.
that I think as soon as the finale ended, that image was everywhere of his face.
Oh yeah.
Like it
Mhm.
was everywhere. It might as well have been the Disney Plus banner. But let's jump right into it. You want to take the lead on this one? All right, I'll
Sure.
hit record in 3, 2, 1, go.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of PFN Reviews. I'm TJ Cornwell, one of your hosts.
And I am Sean Monk, your other host. We are here to talk about the kind of Loki season 2, but more specifically the Loki season 2 finale, perhaps the Loki series finale.
Yeah, so we're just gonna jump right into it. And we're gonna start off with the obviously final episode of Loki. That came out last week, Glorious Purpose. So to kick it off, Sean, what did you think of the series finale of Loki?
If this is the last time, first of all, I think we should just address for this conversation. I don't think this is the last time we're ever going to see Tom Hiddleston as Loki. I think he will be back in some way, shape, or form. But in terms of everyone else, in terms of Sylvie, Mobius, Obi, Casey, Kang, Hunter B-15, everybody, if this is the last that we get, I think there has maybe been, aside from specifically Tony's death inside Endgame, I think this is maybe the second best ending that the MCU has ever told.
Mm.
And I don't even just mean the whole ending of Endgame, because I think that even that is not as strong as this. Tony's death within that, I think, is maybe equally as strong as this, but this is just, I mean, a complete full circle moment for the character of Loki. The arc of all 12 episodes, the arc of these 6 episodes that made up season 2, was so satisfying and so fun. And sure, were we like, well, maybe episode 3 was not as good as episode 2,
Mm-hmm.
because of this, that, or the other reason. um all the episodes were still good. And most of them were great, and some of them were some of the best TV that Disney has ever produced. And I
Mm-hmm.
don't say that lightly. I think it's literally some of the best TV that Disney has ever produced. Um, I think that they have hit two pretty big home run, two pretty big good shows in a row, with Ahsoka going right into Loki. But I will tell you, as much as I enjoyed Ahsoka, Loki, it shows to me exactly what these shows can and should be. It
Mm-hmm.
was so much better than I think any of the other shows that they have done in the MCU. And I like a lot of the shows. But this one is just on another level of its themes, its emotion, the character work, the writing, the acting, everything like that is top notch, thought out. The look of the show, the lighting, the wardrobe, the set design. It's like a movie. It's like, well, obviously it feels like a movie, but it is like a great movie. It is like a
Mm-hmm.
5 out of 5 movie where you go, wow, the people that made this, really, you can tell that they care about what they did. They had an idea of what they wanted to convey, how they wanted to portray all of this stuff. And honestly, the finale to me felt like a well-deserved victory lap for both the two directors, the main writer, Eric Martin on the show, and Tom Hiddleston, and also gave every single one of our supporting players an epic moment or a great send-off, or at least a great final moment. And I think we really got to hit that nail on the head with Owen Wilson as Mobius. Um, I thought that he was fantastic this season. And the last thing I'll say in this little spiel is his final scene, where he is just standing there with the sun beaming on him. Uh, because this is a guy that the entire time we've known him, other than going off to prune some timeline, his whole life is trapped in the TVA. And this is the first time that we're seeing him there, like he tells Sylvie, just letting time pass.
Mm-hmm.
And I just thought the ending was just incredible, really incredible, way better than the Marvels, and I liked that movie.
Yeah,
Like incredible.
yeah. I think Loki is definitely undeniably now uh probably the best MCU show, best show on Disney Plus. I'll say. I think this episode was, I guess, the Tom Hiddleston's magnum opus Loki
Yeah.
performance. I think he is so good in this episode. I mean, he was good in the series already, but I think he does such a good job, like you said, in this episode, conveying emotion and everything that his character has to go through in this one episode. He just does an amazing job. So does everybody else,
Mm-hmm.
obviously. Um, Owen Wilson's awesome. I thought they did a great job in, and again, this whole kind of thing with Jonathan Majors and Kang, where they kind of, you think maybe they had painted themselves into kind of a corner, but it seems as though with this show, maybe they kind of cracked open a door where it's like, well, actually, we could go a different direction from here if we really wanted to.
Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But speaking of Jonathan Majors, his I thought his performance and him and Tom Hiddleston going back and forth, I thought that was great. Just
Yeah.
them on screen together, I thought they worked really well off each other.
Mm-hmm.
Um, maybe what I've liked a little bit again, I can't even like I can't really I'm really pretty much nitpicking, I feel like at this point. Maybe what I've liked a little bit more from Sylvie, uh,
Mm-hmm.
but I still think she has some great moments in this episode.
Yeah.
Um and I'm with you. I don't It seems like a send off where it's like, okay, I think this is it. Like I don't know if maybe we don't see Tom Hiddleston as Loki again. I think we definitely will. I think he said as much that, this.
Yeah,
I
he
think he said
walked
like
back what he
you'd
was
be
said on
naive
Fallon.
to.
Yeah.
Oh, he did. Okay.
Yeah. Well, no, yeah, what you were saying, because on
Oh,
Fallon
okay.
he
Yeah.
said he called it a conclusion to 14
Right.
years
Yeah.
of his
Yeah.
life, and people were like,
Yeah.
"Conclusion? It's
Yeah.
over!"
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then he like came out and he like talked to the Hollywood Reporter or something
Yeah.
to specifically put a statement out saying, "I think it
Mhm.
would be naive to think." He was like, "I have thought." He's like, "Let alone how many times I've died. I personally thought I was done with Marvel twice before." So this
Mhm.
is all just, it's gonna. I think he's gonna be back in Secret Wars for sure. I mean,
Yeah.
100%.
But I think at this moment what his sacrifice means, I don't know. I don't think they could have written it any better, honestly.
I know,
I
yeah.
mean, did
And it's
anybody?
so like melancholy. Like how many
Yeah.
times in the show there was the whole episode in season 1 with Lady Sif where she was like, "You're alone and you're always gonna be alone, and that's it,
Hmm.
and you need to accept that." And then in that great scene in episode 5 with him and Sylvie at the bar where she's like, "What do
Hmm.
you want?" And he's like, "I want to protect everybody." And she's like, "No, what do you want?" And he's like, "I want to protect my friends." And she's like, "No." And he goes, "I don't want to
Hmm.
lose my friends. I don't want to be alone." And then to make it so that he's alone
Hmm.
in the center of time is like so heartbreaking, but then you get that beautiful moment at the end where Mobius is saying, "I'm just going to stand here and let time pass." And then you get that great push in and push in through all of those branches, and you see
Hmm.
that he's there with a smile on his face watching his friend get the life that he knows that he deserves. And it's just like, man, the relationship between Loki and Mobius, and of course when he time slips all the way back to episode 1 and you get that beautiful new conversation with
Hmm.
with past Mobius. um Man, just so good, that whole thing of Owen Wilson's performance in that. I mean, if I would love for both of them to get nominated for an Emmy. I don't know if that's going to happen, but I would love for both of them to get nominated for
Yeah.
an Emmy.
Is this the
Yeah.
is this the second best arc for a character in the MCU? Do you think, or would you put? I'm thinking like
Like
probably Tony
Tony?
and Loki.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Tony and Loki are easily number 1 and number 2 for sure.
Okay. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't
Um
know if you would say this is a better arc than the Tony arc, but probably not, right? I mean, that'd
Yeah,
be
I mean,
pretty
like,
hard
I
to
guess
top.
we'll see where it goes because I think it's still
Yeah.
not even over. I think that there
Hmm.
is something to be said of just the consistency of Tony's arc, that it was like
Hmm.
for a decade, that guy was in a movie every year progressing that character.
Right.
Loki has
Hmm.
been a little more sporadic.
Hmm.
But that being said, it's almost maybe more impressive how good of a character they've made this.
Yeah.
Even just now, in the days since the finale, we've learned more about it. That last line, that's his same final line in the first Thor movie, the "I could have done it, Father, for you, for all of us." And then in
Hmm.
this movie, in this episode, he says, "I know what I have to do for you, for all of us." Like the fact that they picked the same line from the previous, like, just so good, so poetic. Like, it's like poetry, it rhymes. Insert your George Lucas memes, but honestly, it was just like beautiful. Like that
Hmm.
ending. What did you think when that like started to happen? I mean, because I think you go like,
I'll be honest. I didn't really know what the hell was going.
no, neither did I. The first time I saw it, up until the moment that he starts walking, and then the outfit changes.
Right.
That to me was, or no, even not even that, because the outfit changes well before that. That's when he goes like full God mode. Which, first of
Hmm.
all, the change into the outfit was great because you
Oh
you
yeah.
deny
Agreed.
us that outfit the whole show.
Mm.
He's just in his TVA outfit since episode 1, and then to finally give us that, and it's not a big gold green, lush outfit with this big armored padding. It almost just looks like a real, clothing that he would pick,
Hmm.
something like that. There's just something that felt so different about it. um but yeah, that final moment is just so good, and the music to essentially end most of this episode on just like a 7-minute uninterrupted scored piece, that it's just instrumental music for that
Oh
entire
yeah, that
time.
music.
That was so good, so good. I can't
Hmm.
believe that Natalie Holt did the music on Obi-Wan, because it's like The music in Obi-Wan is nowhere near how thoughtful and crafted all of this music feels to specifically Loki's character. But yeah, I just thought it was a beautiful ending. I am excited to see Loki again. I think that, unlike times in the past, I remember very well the years of Loki is dead, he's died before, leave him dead. Now I think it's like, what a beautiful ending.
Mm-hmm.
And I think everyone in the world is okay if he were to come back. Because it's like, it's a beautiful ending of sacrifice, but he is still alive. He's still out there. He's able to, go and, I even said to, I even thought, he could use his illusions. So maybe he physically stays in the tree, but he can, kind of project himself onto the timeline. Maybe that's how we'll see him later down.
Yeah, I'll be
road.
interested to see like what that kind of
looks like.
What the meeting with, like, eventually I'm assuming we get like a meetup with Thor at some point, and what that kind of, if there's like a conversation there, like, and to see what his reaction to what he has become now at this point.
Yeah.
Because
that would be awesome.
I feel like they've done just an amazing job taking him from obviously the villain in the first Avengers to, they've crafted him where it's like, okay, now you care about him, but now we're gonna kill him in Infinity War, and that death really hit in the beginning of Infinity War for, I feel like, the majority of people.
Oh yeah, coming right off of Ragnarok, absolutely.
Right, and then to take this kind of again Loki, but before any of that happened, just like right after Avengers 1, and kind of again just like reshape him into what he is now. I think it's just amazing what they've done. I feel like.
Yeah, honestly, I think that maybe Tony Stark has the best character development in the MCU. Loki has the best narrative arc in the MCU. That's what I'll say. That's the difference. Is that, like you said, because they didn't just do it once. They did it twice. They took him all the way to his conclusion, and then they went, this guy's so good, let's start over again. And then they did it again. And it's like, and both were equally incredible. And you know what, too? The way that this show ends, you go, okay, we now know. Exactly, I know. We go, I'd be lying if I said I didn't watch that scene this week. I definitely did. I didn't do it for him. But I think it definitively leaves you with, this guy is not that guy from Infinity War. Like, for any of the people that go, they just keep bringing Loki back. The way that this show ends and the way that this whole show is, that guy that we followed in those movies, he is dead. Like, that guy is dead. The guy that turned a new leaf on, on Asgard and helped everybody and, was trying to stand up to Thanos and, sacrificed himself, essentially. That guy died, and he's gone. He's never going to come back. That guy is dead. But now we have this new, just huge version of this character that can come back and, really make a difference and be kind of a game changer for the entire universe. And, I think whether it's Doctor Doom or Kang, I think some of their most important work of how are we going to beat this guy, how are we going to restore the multiverse, has been done on this Disney Plus show. And how they're going to get massive amounts of the audience to know and understand that's a problem for another set of people. But
doesn't this make you wonder? It's like, why can't they just do this with every show?
I know, no, really,
like, why,
I know.
Why the inconsistency?
And I'm very happy that the guys that did this are moving over to Daredevil. And they talked this week. They were like, yeah, if we knock Daredevil out of the park, we'd love a chance at Secret Wars. And I'm like, if they knock Daredevil out of the park, that proves to me that they can do street level and they can do the most cosmic multiverse crap ever. Because also I think that Loki does the absolute best job talking about multiverse. Some of the final lines in this episode, it was like, okay, because there's Nexus events and incursions, and TVAs and Kangs, and does every Kang have their own TVA? And then this finale, this finale went not even a little bit. They went, do you have the file on all the Kang variants? Great. We're going to hunt down the Kangs. Do the Kangs know that the TVA exists? No, they don't yet. So now we know, no, every Kang does not have a TVA. There is only one TVA. Because you remember after season 1, when Mobius was like, I don't know who you are. Everybody just assumed that it was, oh, he got pushed into a different TVA. Well, now we know definitively there is one TVA in the entire multiverse. And I think that, like, setting that up for the TVA to be this kind of thing in the MCU, which we're going to see in the next movie in Deadpool 3, we know that the TVA is a big part of Deadpool 3. I think that they left not only the character of Loki, but the TVA itself in such a prime position to be kind of the guiding light to this multiverse saga. Because I think, honestly, you got to stop with the, is it the TVA? Is it an incursion? Is it a Nexus event? What are we, is it a probability matrix? Is it the quantum realm? What are we talking about? Just make everything be the TVA. Just say that incursions are like the natural tears, and that's when two worlds hit together, and the TVA is there to try and stop incursions. That's it. That's all you got to say going forward. But yeah, I just, whether it was where they left Loki, where they left Mobius, or where they left the TVA itself, I just think that this finale was great and teed everything off to be set up for success. No matter where any of this goes, I think they really gave the MCU a like Hail Mary layup. You know what I mean, to kind of merge sports metaphors there. I think they really gave them a real home run, just to add in another one. Really good at a time that the MCU really needed it. Anything else?
Agreed. No, I think that's it.
All right. Well, look at that. We ended right at 10 o'clock. Well, everybody, if you're just joining us for this Loki review, thank you guys so much for joining us for this Loki review. We absolutely love the show. We will be talking about the show, I'm sure, for years to come, as probably one of the best that, once it's all said and done, Loki will be remembered as one of the best things the MCU ever did. And that is something I thought maybe, going into season 2, but after season 2, just, absolute victory. Let us know, what did you guys think? Did you have problems with it? I know there were some people that did have problems. Towards the middle of the season, we even had questions of, is this show a little too confusing? Can we keep track of what's going on? I think that episodes 5 and 6, not only being great themselves, actually reverse osmosis help the rest of the season make even more sense. So I think the whole thing really just works together well. But let us know what you think down below. Make sure, while you're down there, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Yeah, that'll do it for me. I've been one of your hosts, Sean Monk.
I've been your other host, TJ Cornwell. Thank you for watching. Please follow us on all our social media, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, and we will see you next time.
Boom. All right, and for the people still watching the live stream, same to you. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share. One last thing, I want to thank you guys so much for anyone who's still watching, for getting our Mean Girls trailer reaction up to 700 views. We've been taking a big break from trailer reactions, but now we're going to be getting a ton of trailers going to the rest of the year. I have a very busy work schedule coming up. I'm getting a lot of overtime because of the holiday, which is good. But yeah, I'm going to be very busy. But I know we do have the Madam Web trailer coming out tomorrow, so we'll see.
Oh, really?
I guess so. That's the rumor on the street. So we will see what happens with that. But until then, thank you guys so much for watching. I've been one of your hosts, Sean Monk.
I've been another host, TJ Cornwell. Thank you for watching. Please follow us on all our social medias, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and we will see you next time.
Boom.